You want to be mentally strong. Then stop chasing comfort like it's the prize. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your introduction. It's the place where the real version of you gets built. Most people want the strength, but not the struggle. They want growth, but they avoid the growing pains. They want the crown, but they refuse the cross. That's not how this works. You don't get to evolve without first being broken, stretched, and made uncomfortable. See, the moment you step into something unfamiliar, when the routine is shattered, when the plan doesn't go as planned, that's when the real training begins. And I'm not talking about physical strength. I'm talking about the strength behind your eyes, the kind that no one sees, but everyone feels. That presence, that force, that inner weight that holds you together when everything around you is falling apart. That kind of strength gets developed in dark places, silent nights, unanswered prayers, betrayals, losses, failures. But let's be honest, most people run from discomfort like it's fire. And it is fire. But that fire is meant to refine you, not destroy you. You think the pain you're feeling right now is a curse, but maybe it's the invitation, the push. The pressure meant to provoke something in you that's been dormant too long. Pressure reveals what's real. Take a seed and put it on a shelf. It'll sit there, but bury that seed in the dirt, press it down, water it, and guess what? That same darkness, that same pressure is what makes it grow. It's easy to talk about strength when everything's going your way. It's easy to quote books, post quotes, talk tough when you're not bleeding. But mental strength doesn't show up in talk. It shows up in silence. In those moments when you feel like giving up, when your back's against the wall, when nobody's clapping, nobody's noticing, and yet you keep showing up. That's discomfort. That's where the muscle builds. Look back at your life. When did you grow the most? Was it when everything was perfect, predictable, and easy? Or was it in the chaos? Was it in the breakup? The failure, the layoff, the betrayal. That's when the layers peel back. That's when you learned who you were, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. That's the hidden gift of discomfort. It exposes weakness, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. Because once you know where the cracks are, now you can reinforce them. The truth is, we're raising a generation that's allergic to difficulty. They want results without resistance. They want to go viral without being valuable. They want resilience without responsibility. But there is no shortcut. You want to be mentally strong. Good. Then expect to be uncomfortable. Often embrace it, not in some twisted, masochistic way, but with the clarity that this is the only way. Every rep of pain, every moment of resistance is building a new version of you. You think people with mental strength were born that way. No, they were forged, shaped, humbled. Life hit them and they didn't fold, or maybe they did fold, but they got back up. That's what matters, getting back up, even with trembling hands and tired eyes. Even when it doesn't make sense, even when the world is silent and your prayers echo back at you, that comeback builds mental armor. But here's the part they don't tell you. Discomfort never gets easier. You just get stronger. It still burns. It still stretches you. But now you don't flinch. You don't panic. You don't shrink. You stand taller in it. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Because when you shift your mindset like that, every uncomfortable moment becomes a classroom and you become a student of the grind. And let me tell you something else. You can't microwave mental toughness. You can't rush it. You can't hack it. It takes time. It takes tears. It takes late nights when you doubt everything, but you refuse to quit. It takes moments when you're misunderstood, overlooked, underestimated, and you keep going anyway. That's the kind of discomfort that builds giants. So the next time life gets uncomfortable, don't run. Don't numb it. Don't escape it. Sit in it. Feel it. Learn from it, because that's not punishment. That's process. You don't get to your destiny without first getting uncomfortable. Growth costs comfort every single time. You will never be mentally strong if your emotions are the driver of your decisions. Discipline has to be the captain, not how you feel in the moment. Because the truth is, feelings lie. They're temporary. They're reactive. They change with the weather, with sleep, with circumstance. 1 minute you're inspired. The next you're drained. If you let emotion lead, you'll build your life on sand. But when discipline is your foundation, you show up whether it's raining or shining. You do it tired. You do it uncertain. You do it when no one's watching, and especially when no one's clapping. That's the difference between the strong and the soft. Not talent, not motivation, but discipline. See, people love the idea of being great. They love the dream, the vision, applause. But when it comes down to the work, the daily, mundane, unglamorous grind, their emotions start talking. I don't feel like it today. I'm not in the mood. What's the point if no one cares? That's when they fall off. That's when the fire dies out. Because their actions are chained to emotion instead of anchored in discipline. But discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline shows up no matter how it feels. Look, your feelings are real, but they're not reliable. You can't build your legacy based on whether or not you feel inspired today. You can't chase mental strength by giving in to every mood swing. Discipline says, I said I would do it, so I'm doing it. No excuses. No shortcuts, no emotional loopholes. You want to be strong, then train your mind to obey your values, not your vibes. Strength isn't about how loud you talk when you're motivated. It's about how consistent you are when you're not. This is where most people lose the battle. It's not the big crisis that breaks them. It's the daily war with themselves. Waking up early when the bed feels good. Going to the gym when the soreness screams. Studying when the mind wanders. Praying when it feels dry. Showing up when no one notices. That's the grind. That's the place where mental toughness is built. Not on the mountain, but in the valley. Not with cameras on, but in silence. And here's the real challenge. Discipline often looks boring. There's no instant payoff. You won't always see results tomorrow. You won't always feel different today, but you keep doing it anyway. Day after day, choice after choice, you are writing the story of your strength, one decision at a time. And over time, what once felt hard becomes habit. What once required a fight becomes your flow. But that doesn't happen unless you learn how to act beyond how you feel. Some people wait for motivation before they move. That's weakness in disguise. The strong don't wait. They move. And let the motivation meet them on the way. If you only show up when it's easy, don't expect to be exceptional. If you only train when you're hyped, you'll never last. Life isn't built on hype. It's built on habits. And discipline is the soil where those habits grow. Mentally strong people aren't cold. They feel deeply, but they don't let emotion interrupt execution. They process, they reflect, but they don't allow emotion to derail their direction. That's not repression. That's mastery. It means I can feel something and still do what needs to be done. I can be disappointed and still be diligent. I can be hurt and still be honorable, because strength isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to move with it, not be moved by it. Think about the people you respect most, the ones who seem unshakable. You think they never feel fear. You think they don't get tired. Of course they do. But they've trained their minds to follow through, to stick to the process. They don't worship feelings. They use them. If they feel fear, they turn it into fuel. They feel pain. They use it as purpose. But they never let emotion be the excuse that stops their action. Because here's what separates them. They've made a decision, guy, I don't need to feel like it to do it. That single belief changes everything. It puts the power back in your hands. You stop waiting for a feeling to move you, and you start choosing who you're going to be day in and day out. You stop being a slave to emotion and start becoming the master of your mind. So if you want mental strength, get ready to be uncomfortable. Get ready to feel uninspired. Get ready to doubt, to wrestle, to wake up with heavy thoughts. But no matter what you feel, move anyway, push anyway, show up anyway. Because on the other side of that discipline is the life you keep saying you want. The version of you haven't met yet. And you don't get to meet them until you stop bowing to emotion and start building through discipline. Silence isn't weakness. It's not surrender. It's not passivity. It's power. In a world that's constantly screaming for attention, validation, and reaction, silence is the rarest form of strength. When you can sit in a moment, hold your tongue, and still know who you are without proving it. That's power. The strongest people don't always speak first. They don't always argue loudest. They don't need to shout to be sure. Because when you are grounded, when you truly know your worth, your energy walks into the room before you do. Your presence speaks even when your mouth doesn't move. See, everybody wants to be heard, but not everybody deserves your voice. Not every insult requires a clapback. Not every invitation to chaos deserves your RSVP. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not respond. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them misunderstand. What they say about you doesn't become true just because they say it louder or say it often. You don't have to correct every lie or fix every perception. Why? Because silence is the language of those who have nothing to prove. And when you really carry power, you don't waste it. People get loud when they feel powerless. They throw words around hoping something will stick, hoping someone will notice. But when you're truly strong, when you're truly anchored, you learn to stay quiet in moments that try to rob your peace. You learn that silence isn't empty. It's full of self-control. You learn that walking away is sometimes the most courageous thing you can do. Because maturity isn't about winning arguments. It's about protecting your energy. That's what mental strength looks like. It's not always about grinding harder or speaking longer. Sometimes it's about being still. Think about editing. Anyone can react. It takes nothing to react, but it takes power to pause. It takes wisdom to listen without rushing to respond. It takes confidence to not explain yourself when you know your actions already do. Most people speak from insecurity. They talk just to remind the room that they matter, but the strongest minds have already made peace with themselves. They don't speak from fear. They speak from clarity, and clarity doesn't rush. You have to train yourself to be unbothered, to know that silence doesn't mean defeat. It means direction. You're not avoiding the fight because you're scared. You're walking away because it's not aligned with your purpose. Not everything deserves your voice. Not every conversation deserves your contribution. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Mental strength shows up in your ability to remain calm in chaos, to stay rooted when the storm is loud. People will test you. They'll poke you, hoping you'll lose your cool. But when you respond with silence, you starve their power. There's a certain dignity that lives in silence. A poise, a discipline, when you no longer need to be understood. That's when you've really arrived. When your validation comes from your vision, not their approval. You stop entertaining noise. You stop needing to respond to rumors, to critics, to small talk. You realize not everyone gets access to your energy. Silence becomes your filter. And when you operate from that level of control, your power multiplies. You don't owe people explanations they wouldn't understand anyway. You don't have to justify the steps you're taking to people who haven't walked your journey. Let them speculate. Let them assume. Let them fill in the blanks with their version of your story. Because while they're talking, you're building. While they're guessing, you're growing. That's the beauty of silence. It creates space for transformation. You don't need to announce your every move. Let your results be the noise. Let your progress be the proof. Silence also teaches you. In the stillness, you hear things you miss in the chaos. You recognize your triggers. You learn to think before you move. You gain control over your emotions. That's how warriors are made. Not in the arena of arguments, but in the gym of self-restraint. The more you mature, the more selective you become with your words. Not because you're scared, but because you've learned that real power doesn't shout, it whispers. And when you whisper, people lean in. You want mental strength. Then learn the art of shutting up sometimes. Learn when to speak and when to stay silent. Learn that not every reaction is worthy of your attention. And understand this. Silence isn't about ignoring others. It's about respecting yourself. It's about knowing that peace is more valuable than pride. That growth is louder than gossip. And that your destiny is too important to be delayed by distractions. There's a different kind of strength that comes alive when you know why you're here. Not a shallow kind of motivation, not the kind that fades after a bad day or a hard season. I'm talking about purpose. That deep, unshakable reason behind everything you do. When you have it, you move different. You stop chasing applause and start chasing assignment. You stop folding under pressure because pressure just reminds you that you're still alive and still in the fight. Purpose is what turns struggle into fuel, pain into power. Without it, you drift. With it, you drive. People wake up every day with no idea why they're doing what they're doing. They clock in, clock out, go through the motions and wonder why they feel so drained. It's not always about the job or the circumstance. It's about the lack of purpose. Because when you're disconnected from purpose, everything feels heavy. But when you're connected to purpose, the weight doesn't get lighter. You just get stronger. Purpose doesn't make life easy. It makes life meaningful. And that meaning gives you stamina. That's where the real power lies. Not in talent or titles, but in meaning. You ever seen someone who's been through hell and still stands tall? That's purpose. You ever met someone who's been broken, betrayed, overlooked, still moves with grace and fire? That's purpose. When you have it, you can go further than your strength alone would ever allow. You keep showing up when logic says to quit. You keep believing when everything around you says give up. Why? Because your soul knows something your eyes can't see yet. Purpose speaks louder than pain, but you have to search for it. Purpose doesn't come gift wrapped. It's not handed to you. It's often revealed in the fire, in the heartbreak, in the loss, in the things you thought would destroy you. That's where it gets carved out. Sometimes your purpose is born the moment you decide you won't let what hurt you define you. Sometimes it's hidden in what you survived, what you walked through, what you had to rebuild from scratch. Purpose rises from the ashes, from the wreckage, from the silence. That's what makes it powerful. It's for just not fabricated. And once you tap into it, distractions lose their grip. You stop entertaining petty fights. You stop needing validation from people who don't understand your path, because purpose sharpens your vision. It gives you tunnel focus. You start protecting your time, your energy, your mind, because you realize you're building something sacred, something eternal. People who live on purpose don't move like everybody else. They don't need to be told to stay disciplined. They already know what's at stake. They don't have to be reminded to get back up. They already feel the pull inside to keep going. Purpose gives pain a job. It tells suffering, you don't get to break me. You get to shake me. It gives failure meaning. It takes the lowest moments of your life and turns them into the most powerful chapters of your story. That's why some people who've been through the darkest things carry the brightest light, because purpose doesn't just redeem time. It redeems trauma. It takes everything the enemy meant for harm and flips it into healing, into help, into hope for someone else. And here's the thing. Purpose isn't always loud. It's not always flashy. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. Sometimes it looks like faithfulness in the small things. Showing up when it's thankless, giving when no one claps, serving when no one sees. That's purpose too. It's not about fame. It's not about platform. It's about impact, about legacy, about leaving something behind that can't be erased when the lights go out and the noise dies down. The most powerful people are the ones who know what they're here for and refuse to let anything pull them off that track. They don't let delay turn into doubt. They don't let criticism turn into confusion. They move with clarity, even when they're tired, even when they're misunderstood. They know where they're going, and they understand that the journey is part of the power. because purpose isn't just about the destination. It's about the kind of person you become on the way there. So if you want to be mentally strong, you need more than just discipline, more than just grit. You need a reason. You need something inside you that says, I was made for more than this moment. Something that holds you steady when everything else is shaking. Something that whispers in your soul, keep going, even when no one else sees the fight. That's purpose. And when you live from that place, power stops being something you chase. It becomes something you carry. So now you know, mental strength isn't some magical gift that shows up when life is easy. It's built in the fire, in the silence, in the discipline, in the deep, unshakable pull of purpose. It's not about being the loudest in the room, the smartest in the room, or even the most talented in the room. It's about being the most view anchored, the one who doesn't fold under pressure, the one who moves forward even when everything says stop. The one who understands that discomfort is the gym, discipline is the trainer, silence is the protection, and purpose is the fuel. You want to be mentally strong. Then stop waiting for life to get easier. Start becoming the kind of person who gets stronger, the kind who doesn't break because it's hard, who doesn't quit just because it hurts, and who doesn't settle just because it's quiet. Strength isn't in how loud you speak. It's in how consistent you are when nobody's listening. And the secret, the real secret, it's already in you. You just have to decide today, right now, to build it.